your feet are towards Prabhupada. If you go sideways. Gauranga. Gauranga. Jairata Matovo Kunja Bihari Rata Matovo Kunja Bihari Jaya Gopi Jana Ballabha Girivaradari Hey Gopi Jana Ballabha Girivaradari Yashodanandana Brajjanaranjana Yashodanandana Brajjanaranjana Jamuna Tirtha Vanochari Jamuna Tirtha Vanochari Jayaratha Matova Kunja Bihari Jayaratha Matava Kunja Bihari Gopi Jana Ballabha Girivaradari Gopi Jana Ballabha Girivaradari Yashodanandana Brajjanaranjana Yashodanandana Brajjanaranjana Jamuna Tirtha Vanachari Jamuna Tirtha Vanochari Jayaratha Matava Kunja Bihari Radha Matava Kunja Bihari Jayam Vishnupad Paramahamsa Paragrajikacharya Ashtatala Sata Śrīmad His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Śrīla Prabhupada Ki Anantakoti Vaishnava Brindaki, Grantaraj Śrīmad Bhāgavatam ki, Nitai Go Premanande. All glories to the assembled devotees, all glories to the assembled devotees, all glories to the assembled devotees, all glories to Sri Guru and Sri Gauranga. Narayanam namaskritya naram cheva narottamam devim saraswatim vyasam tato jayam udirayat. Om namo bhagavate vasudevaya. Om namo bhagavate vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Reading from Śrīmad Bhāgavatam, Canto 9, Chapter 13, chapter entitled The Dynasty of Maharaj Nimi, text number 13 onwards. Jamana Janaka Sobud Vaidehastu Videhaja Mitilo Matanajjato Mitilayena Nimita Jamana Janaka Sobud Vaidehastu Videhaja Mitilo Matanajjato Mitilayena Nimita Jamana Janaka Sobud Vaidehastu Videhaja Mitilo Matanajjato Mitilayena Nimita. Mataji's. Jamana, by birth. Janaka, born uncommonly, not by the usual process. Saha, he. Abut, became. Vaideha, also known as Vaideha. Tu, but. Videhaja, because of being born from the body of Maharaj Nimi, who had left his material body. Mithila, he also became known as Mithila. Matanat, because of being born from the churning of his father's body. And Jata, thus born. Mithila, the kingdom called Mithila. Yena, by whom? Janaka. Niyamita, was constructed. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami, Srila Prabhupada. Because he was born in an unusual way, the son was called Janaka. And because he was born from the dead body of his father, he was known as Vaideha. Because he was born from the churning of his father's material body, he was known as Mithila. And because he constructed a city as King Mithila, the city was called Mithila. Translation responsibly. Because he was born in an unusual way, the son was called Janaka. And because he was born from the dead body of his father, he was known as Vaideha. Because he was born from the churning of his father's material body, he was known as Mithila. And because he constructed a city as King Mithila, the city was called Mithila. So I'm going to read a few more verses. O King Parikshit, from Mithila came a son named Uda-Vasu. From Uda-Vasu, Nandivardhana. From Nandivardhana, Suketu. And from Suketu, Devarata. From Devarata came a son named Brihadrata. And from Brihadrata, a son named Mahavira, who became the father of Sudriti. The son of Sudriti was known as Drishtaketu. And from Drishtaketu came Hayashva. From Hayashva came a son named Maru. The son of Maru was Pratipaka, and the son of Pratipaka was Kritarata. From Kritarata came Devamita. From Devamita, Vishruta. And from Vishruta, Mahadriti. From Mahadriti was born a son named Kritirata. From Kritirata was born Maharoma. From Maharoma came a son named Swanaroma. And from Swanaroma was Hraswaroma. From Hraswaroma came a son named Shiradwaj, also called Janaka. When Shiradwaj was plowing a field, from the front of his plow, Shira, appeared a daughter named Sita Devi, who later became the wife of Lord Ramachandra. Thus he was known as Shiradwaj. The son of Shiradwaj was Kushadwaj, and the son of Kushadwaj was King Dharmadwaj, who had two sons, namely Kritadwaj and Mitadwaj. O Maharaj Parikshit, the son of Kritadwaj was Keshidwaj, and the son of Mitadwaj was Kandikya. The son of Kandikya was expert in spiritual knowledge, and the son of Mitadwaj was expert in Vedic ritualistic ceremonies. Kandikya fled in fear of Keshidwaj. The son of Keshidwaj was Banuman, and the son of Banuman was Shatajumna. The son of Shatajumna was named Shuchi, and from Suchi, Sanadwaj was born. And from Sanadwaj came a son named Ujjitu was Aja. The son of Aja was Purujit. The son of Purujit was Arishtanemi. And the son of Shrutayu, and his son was Shrutayu. Shritayu begot a son named Supashwaka, and Supashwaka begot Chitrarata. The son of Chitrarata was Shamati, who became the king of Mithila. The son of Shimadi was Samarata, and his son was Sacharata. The son of Sacharata was Upaguru, and the son of Upaguru was Upagupta, a partial expansion of the fire god. The son of Upagupta was Vashwananta. The son of Vashwananta was Yuyuta. The son of Yuyuta was Subhasana, and the son of Subhasana was Shruta. The son of Shruta was Jaya, from whom there came Vijaya. The son of Vijaya was Rita. The son of Rita was Shunaka. The son of Shunaka was Vitahavya. The son of Vitahavya was Driti. And the son of Driti was Bahulashva. The son of Bahulashva was Kriti. And his son was Mahavashi. Shukadev Goswami said, "My dear king, Parikshit, all the kings of the dynasty of Mithila were completely in knowledge of their spiritual identity. Therefore, even though staying at home, they were liberated from the duality of material existence." So I'll read the purport and we'll discuss this verse. The material world is called Dvaita, or duality. The Chaitanya Charitamrita Ansha 4176 says, Dvaite Bhadra Bhadra Jnana Sabha Manodama E Bala E Manda E Sabha Brahma. In this world of duality, that is to say, in the material world, so-called goodness and badness are not the same. Therefore, in this world, to distinguish between good and bad, happiness and distress is meaningless, because they are both mental concoctions, manodharma. Because everything here is miserable and troublesome. To create an artificial situation and pretend it to be full of happiness is simply illusion. The liberated person, being above the influence of the three modes of material nature, is unaffected by such dualities in all circumstances. He remains Krishna conscious by tolerating so-called happiness and distress. This is also confirmed in Bhagavad Gita 2.14. Matra spashas tukunteya shitoshna sukadukadaha agama payano nichas tam titikshasra bharata. O son of Kunti, the non-permanent appearance of happiness and distress and their disappearance in due course are like the appearance and disappearance of winter and summer seasons. They arise from sense perception, O scion of Bharata, and one must learn to tolerate them without being disturbed. Those who are liberated, being on the transcendental platform of rendering service to the Lord, do not care about so-called happiness and distress. They know that these are like changing seasons, which are perceivable by contact with the material body. Happiness and distress come and go. Therefore, a pundit, a learned man, is not concerned with them. As it is said, Gata sun, akata sums cha, nanuso chanti panditaha. The body is dead from the very beginning because it is a lump of matter. It has no feelings of happiness and distress because the soul within the body is in the bodily concept of life. He suffers happiness and distress, and these come and go. It is understood herewith that the kings born in the dynasty of Mithila were all liberated persons, unaffected by the so-called happiness and distress of this world. Thus end the Bhaktivedanta purports to the 9th canto, 13th chapter of the Śrīmad Bhāgavatam, entitled The Dynasty of Maharaj Nimi. Omagyan Timarandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshurun Militam Jena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Tadati Swapadantikam Vansha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhu Vyevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadha Srivasadi Gaura Bhaktavrinda. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So we're getting close to the end of Canto 9 of Śrīmad Bhāgavatam. So Srila Prabhupada says in the introduction to the Bhagavatam, he says that we should study the 9th cantos categorically. Prabhupada once said that you can read any of his books from any place. You can pick up an apple and you can bite an apple from different angles. It's still going to taste sweet, right? So Prabhupada said his books are like that. You can pick up any of his books and just open up from anywhere and you will get sweetness. You will get Krishna conscious realization. However, at some point in your life, you have to study Prabhupada's books categorically. And Prabhupada says that at the beginning of the Bhagavatam. It must be studied categorically. There's a reason behind it being spoken the way it was. Maharaj Parikshit only had 1 week to live, 7 days. It's a great benediction. You know, if you have the great fortune of being told you only have 7 days to live, that's a great benediction. Most of us have no idea. We don't know when we'll die. Could be today. Could be tomorrow. Could be next week. Could be in 50 years from now. We don't know. Right? So it's a great benediction. If we can find out, oh, you only have 7 days, that's good. So what do? You know, maybe you jump on the plane by this afternoon. It means you'll be in Vrindavan tomorrow night. And then you can absorb yourself in chanting and hearing. You know, that's probably that may be what I would do if I had the chance. If it was doable, then I could do that. I mean, it's doable. Whether or not all the pieces fall into place and that's the best thing, that has to be decided. But it's a great benediction. If you have indication of when you will leave, then that's a great benediction. So Maharaj Parikshit only had 7 days. So having 7 days, what was the way he spent the last 7 days? He heard the Śrīmad Bhāgavatam. He went to the bank of the Jamuna, right? It says Ganga within the Bhagavatam. It was Jamuna coming down through Delhi. Ganga and Jamuna, technically it's the same. So he goes to the bank of the Ganga, the Jamuna. He sits there. The great sages realize the king of the earth, because at that point in time he is the emperor of the earth, right? He is the grandson of Parikshit Maharaj is the grandson of Arjuna. You know Arjuna? Yes. Arjuna. He's the grandson of Arjuna, Abhimanyu's son. So such an exalted personality, king of the earth. Because they won the battle, Yudhishthira won the battle, but not long after they won the battle, they went to Himalaya. They left. And then Parikshit had to become the king, because Abhimanyu had left, so Parikshit was left to be the king. What a service. You know, the emperor of the whole earth at the time, Bharatvarsha. So when he was cursed and it was decided that he would leave this world in 7 days, he went and sat down, and the rishis, the sages, came from all over the universe. You know, all the great personalities came. And then in that assembly we even had Narada and Vyasa. Who was Vyasa? Compiled the Vedas, right? Mahamuni Vyasa, right? He compiled all the Vedic literatures, right? And then who's his guru? Narada. So you have Narada and Vyasa. What an exalted, you know, and so many other rishis were there. You know, they all came to be with Parikshit at the end. Just like when a devotee is about to leave this world, the devotees come to be with the devotee. Right? So Narada was there and Vyasa was there, but then Shukadev came. Right? And Shukadev walked in, he was only 16, right? Walks in, and everyone stood up, right? Because they saw when he came, even though he was young, they understood by his countenance that he was actually the most qualified and advanced devotee, the most exalted of the sages. So when he walks in, his father is there, the guru of his father is there, but still he is asked to speak, right? Which shows the extraordinary potency of Shukadev Goswami. You know, you don't get on the Vyasa-san in front of your guru. You know, you don't get on the Vyasa-san in front of your father if your father is an exalted devotee, right? But you know, he gets on he's the one who's chosen. Actually, of the 12 Mahajanas, right? We have 12 Mahajanas. Shukadev is considered the most exalted of the 12. So he sits there, and Maharaj Parikshit has 7 days to hear. So what is the goal? The goal of the hearing was the 10th canto. 10th canto is called Ashraya. Ashraya means the shelter. But Shukadev, he knows he's only got 7 days left, but he doesn't go straight to canto 10. He could have just spoken Krishna Lila directly, right? He doesn't do that. He goes from canto 1 to canto 12, very systematically, right? So why does he do like that? Because there's a reason behind it. It's categorical, right? And Prabhupada says in the introduction of the Bhagavatam, he says you have to study Bhagavatam categorically. There's a reason why it goes like that, right? And Prabhupada says by the end of canto 9, because we're almost at the end of canto 9, tomorrow's chapter 14, and there's only 22 chapters, so almost to the end. Srila Prabhupada writes in the introduction that by the end of canto 9 you should be a God-realized soul. So that means by the end of 2025, I think we'll finish canto 9, all of you need to be God-realized. So how are you doing with that? How is that going? How is your God realization going? Because soon we're going to start canto 10. When was the last time we did canto 10 here in the temple? When was the last time? Right, it was 2010. Right, it's about 15 years ago. And we're just about to get there. It took 15 years. Interesting, we went fast this time because the time before it took about 18 years to go through. So I don't know why we've gone faster this time, but this time so it was 15 years. Right? Now canto 10, which is the Samambonam, the Ashraya. This is the goal. We're finally getting to the goal again. And we're very much looking forward to discussing Krishna's pastimes directly in canto 10. So, if you want to get the full benefit of hearing canto 10, you have to be God-realized. What does that mean? It means you have to understand what is being spoken in every canto leading up to it. Right? And then you'll be God-realized. Prabhupada actually says, if you're attached to illicit sex, you should not go past canto 1 and 2. Prabhupada writes that way back. Right? In canto 2, I think he writes that. If we're attached to material sense gratification, Vishaya, Charya, Narottam Das Thakur says that we should not actually enter into the 10th canto. But we are going to go into the 10th canto. And we need to be God-realized to get the full benefit from the 10th canto. But we're not God-realized, so we're not going to get the full benefit of the 10th canto, but still we should hear. Very interesting. Prabhupada arrived in 1965 in America. And what did Prabhupada have with him? How many books when he got to America? Yeah, canto 1. Yeah, canto 1. If you go up to Prabhupada's room up here, you can actually see some of the original books. This is a museum up here. It's there's not many rooms like this in ISKCON actually, that Prabhupada lived in. Right? There's probably 10 maximum in the whole of ISKCON. You know, Los Angeles, Vrindavan, Juhu, Mayapur, Bhaktivedanta Manor, New Vrindavan, Melbourne. Yeah, I said LA. Yeah, so that's not many. There's only 10 on the planet, and we have one of them. Yeah, I mean, there's very few actually. And there's a museum. You have, Prabhupada's original Bhagavatam. That's all he came with, 1965. And then by 1977, he gets to Canto 10. Finishes at chapter 13, 14, gets to that level. But interesting, in 1970, Prabhupada publishes Krishna book, a summary study of Canto 10, right? Canto, and he gives it to us. He doesn't just give it to us, he says distribute it en masse. Distribute it en masse. I remember if you read Servant of the Servant, it's a very nice book Tamal Krishna Maharaj wrote. He went to Germany, 1970, first devotees to go to Germany to spread the Hare Krishna movement. Went to Germany in 1970, and they just received Krishna book. So it was Christmas, a few days before Christmas. They're standing on the street with boxes of Krishna book, and they were saying, "Get your Krishna book, get your Krishna book." And people, "Oh, what is that?" People running over, and then people started like pushing each other, because there's only like 300 copies or something. So everyone's like, "Hey, no, I want," everyone's putting their hand over each other. "Hey, take the money." All the Krishna books sold in a few minutes. So Prabhupada said, distribute it en masse, Krishna book. So Prabhupada gave that, but when you read Krishna book, Prabhupada writes in such a way that you will understand Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So in one way, Prabhupada writes it in such a way that you, even if you haven't read the 9 cantos, you're still getting all the philosophy of the 9 cantos. So you understand Krishna properly. Because this is why the 9 cantos are there. Otherwise you'll get to the 10th canto and you won't understand Krishna properly. Even the sages, when Shukadeva Goswami was speaking to Parikshit Maharaj, he gets to the 10th canto, Shukadeva Goswami gets to the 10th canto, and when he gets to canto 10, Shukadeva Goswami, he begins to speak Rasa Panchajaya. Canto 10 is said to be the smiling face of Krishna, right? All the different cantos are the different parts of his body. Canto 1 and 2 are his feet, 3 and 4, like the thighs, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, right? 10, 11, 12 is the helmet, like that. So you're like when you take darshan on the deity, you look at the feet of the deity and then you come up nicely. But 10 is the smiling face. What is the most attractive part of the body? It's the face. When you speak to someone, you look at the face. We don't look at your elbow. We look at your elbow and we say, Hare Krishna, you have such a nice elbow. So nice to meet your elbow, like that. We look at the face, because that is the, and when the face smiles, right, that's when it becomes most attractive. Even someone who is ugly, when they smile, they become attractive, right? So what is the smile of the 10th canto, the face? It's the Rasa Panchajaya. It's those 5 chapters where the rasa dance is spoken about, which we'll study probably next year, probably take a couple of years till we get there. So when Shukadeva Goswami was speaking the Rasa Panchajaya, he began to speak it, he looked around and he noticed some of these sages who were sitting there were smirking. I think, what's Krishna doing? In other words, they still had mundane consciousness. Even though they were rishis, but they still had mundane consciousness. That's why Shukadeva Goswami does not speak as much as he could have. Right? He could have said much more about Krishna's pastimes with the gopis and so forth. But he did not say those things. He just gave like a very brief explanation, really. Because he knew that people were not qualified. That's even the sages who were there, sitting there, listening to the Bhagavatam when it was originally spoken. So what to speak of us? Prabhupada says by the end of Canto 9, right, we should be God-realized. We should understand Krishna. It is not mundane. So in this last purport of chapter 14, Prabhupada says that the kings were self-realized souls. They're called Rajashi. Rajashi, Raja Rishi, means self-realized soul. That's what a king is meant to be. Evam parampara praptam imam Rajashiyo vidu. Interesting. Krishna says in Gita, it comes down through the kings. Comes down through the kings. Who are the gurus of the kings? The brahmanas. But the kings have to keep the knowledge being passed on intact. Make sure there is no breakage of disciplic succession. Make sure there's no watering down of disciplic succession. That's what we have to do now. That's our responsibility. That's why Prabhupada said you have to study his books. Prabhupada wanted us to get degrees. Bhakti Shastri, Bhakti Vaibhav, Bhakti Vedanta, Bhakti Sarvabhauma. Prabhupada wanted us to get these degrees. Why? Because we would be learned, we would know his books. And then if there's a deviation in philosophy, we can correct it. Because there are periodic deviations that take place. Just like we have this Ritvic philosophy. Right? So it's a deviation of philosophy. So why do we have to become learned? Because then we can say, actually, that's not correct. Evam parampara praptam. Krishna says there must be a parampara. Where does he say it stops when it gets to ISKCON's Founder-Acharya? Krishna doesn't say that. Why is that? Why does Mahaprabhu not say that? Why didn't Mahaprabhu say, okay, everyone's going to be my disciple? Why did Lord Chaitanya not say it? Why did we have to wait for Prabhupada to come? Why was it not Bhaktivedanta Thakur or Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur? Why did it all suddenly stop when it got to Srila Prabhupada? And then what will happen in the future? Right? Everyone just keeps getting it. It doesn't make sense. It's an illogical philosophy. So we have to be learned so we can point these things out. Right? So that's why Prabhupada said we have to study his books. Prabhupada once said, if I have one criticism of my disciples, it is they do not study my books enough. So we have to. I don't study Prabhupada's books enough. I should be studying Prabhupada's books more than I am. In 1977, Tamal Krishna Maharaj was looking after Prabhupada in Vrindavan. Prabhupada was ill in the final months. Right? And Tamal Krishna Maharaj would sleep 5-6 hours a night, wake up, take bath, go straight to Prabhupada, chant his japa, wait for Prabhupada to wake up, serve him. During the day, he would just go off, take a couple of meals, take bath, come back, he's with Prabhupada. Prabhupada turned to him and said, are you reading my books? And he looked at Prabhupada and he said, Prabhupada, I don't have time. All I'm doing is serving you. And what? Prabhupada said, you have to reduce eating and sleeping. I said, Prabhupada, I'm only eating a couple of meals a day and sleeping 5-6 hours a day, that's all I do. Prabhupada looked at him and said, it requires practice. It requires practice. You see, Prabhupada himself, Prabhupada reduced to 2 hours a night, right? That Prabhupada practiced that over time, right? Reducing. Then he got to 2 hours a night. And then Prabhupada said in the final days, he said, long ago, I gave up mating and defending. And he said, I've been praying to Krishna to give up eating and sleeping. And now Krishna is satisfying my desire. At the end, Prabhupada wasn't eating very much. Bhakti True Swami was cooking for him. Khichdi, like very simple, because Prabhupada couldn't eat much, so khichdi. But he's cooking khichdi without without much spice, didn't have a lot of flavor. And Prabhupada tasted it, the juice. Prabhupada tasted it. He said, "What is this?" He said, "Khichdi, Prabhupada." Prabhupada, "There's no spice." He said, "Oh, Prabhupada, you're not well, so we have to..." Prabhupada said, what is the point in eating? If you're not going to give me something nice to eat, what's the point? Prabhupada liked prasadam. He always ate very nicely, every day. He had paneer sabji every day. But he only slept 2 hours a night as well. You know, we can eat paneer sabji and pizza for breakfast, right? But then we've got to make sure we don't... But we have to also make sure we don't oversleep. If you're going to eat rich, you have to be very careful. Prabhupada came to Sydney in maybe 72, very early in the movement. And devotees were having halava for lunch every day. Prabhupada said, "Stop that." He said, "Once a week you can eat like that, rich food. You can eat once a week. Right? The rest of the time you eat light. Once a week you can have rich." And then Prabhupada left, and devotees kept doing it. It's hard in Kali Yuga for the devotees to control their senses. Not easy. But Prabhupada said, "I've given up eating and sleeping," right, at the end. Even though Prabhupada actually was sleeping quite a lot in the final months. But his sleeping was not sleeping, not like us. You know, when we go to sleep, it's avidya. It's ignorance. We don't even know where we are when we're sleeping. You know, sometimes you wake up, you're traveling to India, you wake up, you don't even know which country you're in. You know, you get to Calcutta, you know, go to take rest, wake up, and like, "Oh, where am I? Melbourne, Hare Krishna Valley, Mayapur, oh no, Calcutta. Okay, now I know where I am." Sometimes I wake up, I don't even know where I am. Prabhupada was not like that. When Prabhupada woke up, he was conscious. Even sometimes, Hare Prabhu said he massaged Prabhupada. He'd massage Prabhupada would like kind of drift off. And he massaged, and then he said when he was massaging, Prabhupada was speaking, and he would kind of drift off and he'd keep massaging. And then he said 45 minutes later, Prabhupada would come back to consciousness and keep speaking from where he left off. You know, most of us, who wake up, we don't even know where we are, what to speak of, what conversation we were having. So Prabhupada said, "I gave up eating, sleeping, mating, and defending." Parikshit Maharaj, he was listening to Śrīmad Bhāgavatam. It said he gave up eating, sleeping, mating, and defending. Right? Gave up all material activities and simply heard. And these Rajashis, which are being spoken of here, they're also on that level. Right? They're saintly kings. Right? This parampara is coming down through them. Right? And that is the duty of the saintly king, the Raja Rishi. He has to keep the disciplic succession intact. Right? And he has guru. The gurus are the brahmanas, but the kings have to make sure everything is correct. Right? So things do not deviate. Actually, it says in Mahabharata, Arjuna, one time Arjuna had to go to the forest for 1 year. Because Draupadi had a Swayambara. But at the time of the Swayambara, the Pandavas were incognito. Right? They were hiding. Right? So they're hiding, but they're incognito. So they came to the Swayambara of Draupadi because they heard about Draupadi. And Arjuna said, "I want to marry her." Right? She's very exalted. Right? So they came to and they had a big arena, something like the Colosseum or the MCG, something like that, big arena. And all the princes came to try to compete to see who would win Draupadi. Right? And the Pandavas were dressed as brahmanas, right? Because they were incognito, they were hiding. Krishna and Balaram came. Right? Krishna and Balaram also came to the Swayambara. They were sitting there, and then Balaram leaned over to Krishna and he said, "There's Yudhishthira." he's dressed up like a Brahmana. They're all Pandava. But Krishna and Balaram knew. They just looked. They said, there's Yudhishthira, there's Bhima, there's Nakul, there's Sahadev, there's Arjuna. They could see straight away. But they're dressed like the Brahmana. I mean, imagine Bhima being dressed like a Brahmana, like this huge warrior, dressed like a Brahmana, like that. So, but no one recognized, only Krishna and Balaram. So then Arjuna, he won Draupadi in the Swayamvara. The competition was you had to look into like a pot of oil or a pot of water, which they hit the pot, so the pot was shimmering. So when something shimmers, you can't see the reflection nicely, so you had to look. You had to look into the pot, and then up on the roof, there was a fish, not a real fish, but like a mechanical fish, and there was a wheel, and the wheel was spinning, so you had to look down, and with your bow, you had to shoot the arrow up, go through the wheel, and hit the fish in the eye. But before you did that, you had to string the bow. Right? The bow was extremely powerful bow. It wasn't easy to string. So the warriors were coming, right? And they were picking up the bow. Most of the warriors couldn't even string the bow, right? Which is very embarrassing. You're a big Kshatriya and you grab the bow and you're trying to, pull it down so you can put the string on, and they were getting thrown around the arena. And so finally, all the big warriors came. We had like, I think Jarasandha might have had a turn. And you had Duryodhana, he was able to string. He picked up the bow and string it. Different warriors were trying, very powerful warriors. And finally, no one could hit. A few people hit the fish, which is amazing. They got the fish, but then Karna came, who was a Pandava, but they didn't understand. Karna came, he got the bow, and then he looked down. And then Draupadi said, even if you hit the fish in the eye, I won't marry you. And then he was, that's a great insult. He shot, but just missed the eye. Just missed, because he's so angry. She insulted him. And Karna never let go of that. It was like, so she insulted him. So then everyone's looking. Oh, no one can do it. No one can do it. So this Brahmana stands up, walks over, and picks up the bow. He offers his obeisances to the bow, bows down, circumambulates the bow 3 times, picks it up, just goes straight in the eye. Draupadi goes over, puts the garland on him, and he just walks out, and she just follows him out of the arena. And then the other Brahmanas, the Pandavas, they follow him out as well. So they're walking out, and all the Kshatriyas stand up. They say, we're not going to let some Brahmana walk out of here with a princess, right? So then they attacked, Karna and they all attacked. They all went out. And then they were coming down the road. Arjuna's still carrying the bow, so he has a duel with Karna, with arrows. They're firing arrows at each other. Arjuna defeats Karna. And then Bhima, because they didn't have any weapons on them, because they're dressed as Brahmanas, so he picked up a tree, just like snaps a tree out of the ground, cuts off the branches with his hands, and just starts beating all the Kshatriyas with a tree, just smashing everyone. And all the Kshatriyas are going back. Right, so they fought off the Kshatriyas, they went back. They got back to the hermitage. They were staying in a little hut with one Brahmana. They're staying with a Brahmana. And Kunti's there. So they get back. They've got Draupadi with them. And they just said to their mother in the morning, we're going out to beg alms. No, we're just going out to beg alms. Just going to get something for you to cook for lunch. They come back, and then they call out, Mother, we have alms. And she calls out, she's inside the house, she said, share it between you. And then when they heard that, they were like, oh, because back in those times, if you said something, that was it. If you make a promise to someone, it actually means something. It's not like now, in Kali Yuga, you say something and then someone comes and said, you said that. And you said, no, I didn't say that. Yes, you did. Kali Yuga's like that, but they said. So she walks out, sees Draupadi, and she says, oh, what have I done? Share it between yourselves. So all 5 had to marry, right? So they all married Draupadi, which is extraordinary. Right? She actually had a benediction from Lord Shiva in the previous life that she could marry 5 husbands. She said to Lord Shiva, give me a husband, give me a husband, give me a husband, give me a husband, give me a husband. Lord Shiva appeared and he said, I'll give you 5 husbands. She said, no, 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 just one. He said, no, you said 5 times. So next life she comes and then marries 5. So then they introduced Draupadi to Narada when they went back to Indraprastha. They're staying there. They introduced Draupadi to Narada. Narada, when he saw her, he said, when she came in, she met Narada, she left. Narada said, you'll have to work out some sort of agreement between you because you will quarrel over her. She's so qualified, so beautiful, you will all argue over her. So they made an agreement between each other. They said, if we're ever with Draupadi privately, the other one cannot enter at that time. Right? So they made like an agreement. So then we know the story, right? One Brahmana had all of his cows taken by dacoits, by thieves, comes to Arjuna. Arjuna, he says, you have to get my cows back. You know, the thieves have taken my cows. So Yudhishthira is in the armory with Draupadi alone. Arjuna said, oh, what can I do? I have to protect the Brahmana. So he goes in and he bows down and he says to Yudhishthira, he said, please forgive me, my lord. I have broken our agreement. But there is one Brahmana, his cows have been taken. So he grabbed his bow, he went out, killed the dacoits, got the cows back, gave them back to the Brahmana. And then he came to Yudhishthira and said, please forgive me. He said, now, because the agreement was if you broke the vow, you had to go to the forest for 12 months, for 1 year. So then he comes and he said, and Yudhishthira said, you don't have to do it. He said, this was Dharma. You know, you're doing your Dharma as a Kshatriya. He said, you don't have to leave. He said, no, no, we vowed. Once again, if you promise something, you stick to it. Yeah, if we did this in Kali Yuga, we'd be very powerful. Devotees who do it are very powerful. If you practice satyam or truthfulness, you become very powerful. Like Jayapataka Swami, if he says something, it will happen. You know, because he practices this satyam. Right? It's so powerful. Right? So Arjuna went for 1 year. So what did he do? He had 1 year off. He had to leave, go out through the forest, wander around India. He took the Brahmanas with him. He said, grab all the Shastras, right? Get all the books. We're going to go traveling for a year and we'll just study. He was in ecstasy. And it actually says in Mahabharata, Arjuna was as learned as the sages who instructed him. Right? That's what we should be like. You know, whether we're playing the role of a Brahmana or a Kshatriya, or what, because it says the disciplic succession comes through the Kshatriyas. But the Kshatriyas have to be as learned as the Brahmanas. They should be. They should study so nicely. They should become very learned. And then we'll keep all the disciplic succession intact. We'll keep the philosophy intact. That's our duty. It's our duty. We have to learn very nicely. So when there's some deviant philosophy or practice, we have to correct it. We have to say, this is wrong. Sometimes I hear it. You know, some devotees, you know, one devotee said to me a couple of years ago, he said, Prabhupada said. I said, where did Prabhupada say? Show me. I've never heard that. Maybe I'm wrong. I haven't heard everything that Prabhupada said, but show me. He couldn't show me. I said, don't say those things. Even Prabhupada said. Prabhupada used to say, oh, they say Prabhupada said, Prabhupada said. Prabhupada did not say. Be very careful what you say. You know, it has to, Guru, Sadhu, Shastra. That's why we have to become learned, right, in the books. That's why we study Bhagavatam, Canto 1 to Canto 9. And now we're just about to get to Canto 10. And we have to know the philosophy nicely because we're going into Canto 10. These are Krishna's pastimes. If you're going to go in, you have to understand who he is. This is Swami Bhagavan, Supreme Personality of Godhead, right? If he's stealing, which he does, if he's having illicit affairs with the the ladies in his village, which he does, you have to understand who it is who you're dealing with. It's not some ordinary person. Right? That's why we have to study nicely. Krishna can do whatever he wants, and we can do not whatever we want. That's the difference. Right? Krishna can do what he wants, you can just behave yourself. Right? Once you behave yourself, then maybe Krishna will let us come back to the place where you can do whatever you want. But down here, no, you practice. You become purified. Once you're purified, then you can go back to Godhead, and then you can do whatever you want. In the spiritual world, there's no restrictions to enjoyment, right? Because everyone has a pure heart. So Krishna says, enjoy yourself unlimitedly. Right? You can eat as much as you want in the spiritual world. You can't eat as much as you want here. Right? In the spiritual world, Madhu Mangala sometimes eats 1 million laddus. But he can do it. Why? Because Krishna gives you license. Okay, now. But here, what's the quota in this world? Right? 10 laddus. Well, one time I ate 36 gulab jamuns. That was a good day. Well, I could still do it now, but I won't, because I've learnt it affects my japa the next day. I could do it, but yeah, the good days are gone. But when you go to the spiritual world, there are no limitations. You have a spiritual body, you can serve Krishna purely, and then Krishna will give unlimited enjoyment to the jiva. But in this material world, we have to practice some sense control. Rupa Goswami says, Vacho vegan, manasakroda vegan, jiva vegan, udarapasta vegan. 6 things you have to control. Then you can go back to Krishna. So we'll stop here. Any questions or comments on what we discussed? Any other questions or comments? You have a question? Huh? Save the day. Okay. Srila Prabhupada ki Jai. Hare Krishna.
She has a question.
Om Namo Bhagavatam.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Thank you for the nice class. Prabhu, you were talking about Arjuna. So I wanted to ask, is he a Jiva Tattva or a Vishnu Tattva? Because we see in Bhagavad Gita, it seems as if he's like a Jiva Tattva. But in Krishna book, I think Prabhupada says, and other places as well, that he is an expansion of Narayan Rishi. So.
Of who? Narayan.
Yeah.
Yeah, Narayan is 2 persons. Nara,
Krishna.
Narayan. One is a jiva, one is Narayan. Yeah, so he's that person. He's a jiva. He's a jiva. He's not Vishnu Tattva. He's Jiva Tattva. But he's an eternally liberated person. Eternally liberated. Okay.
Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions? Yeah.
Hare Krishna. We hear that different personalities, they leave home for becoming more self-realized. But I was wondering that, at least for myself, I was thinking, is it okay to just continue with staying at home and just attending the morning program? And this way can we continue to just become detached, and at the end of the life we are ready to go back, or do we have to take that step of leaving home and going to some holy dham and all that?
Oh, like that. It's up to you. The point is, Krishna says in the Gita, Yam Yam Vapi Smaram Bhava. What is chapter 8 about? What is chapter 8 called? Bhagavad Gita. Attaining the Supreme. So chapter 8 is about how to die. That's what chapter 8 is about. So Krishna says, Yam Yam Vapi Smaram Bhava. Whatever you remember, that state you attain. So whether you go to the holy dham or you, like Bhaktivedanta Swami, he stayed in Gita Nagari in America, which is a holy dham. But he purposely chose to show the example that particular example, I'm not even going to go to Vrindavan. I'll stay here in one of Prabhupada's theatres and I'll just absorb myself in Krishna and I'll go back to Godhead like that. So whether you're in the, even Prabhupada said in New York, we used to have that 13-story skyscraper in New York back in the 1970s. Prabhupada actually said, if I leave my body here in New York, build a samadhi on the roof. So even Prabhupada said, I have no sentiment to go back to Vrindavan. I'll just, wherever I leave my body, if I'm thinking of Krishna, I'll go back. However, in February of 1977, when Prabhupada did become ill, he said, take me to Vrindavan. So he said both things. He said, I don't have any sentiment, but he also said, when he did become ill, he said, take me to Vrindavan. Because Prabhupada loved Vrindavan. He said, that's my home. So it's up to you. There's no hard and fast rule. The point is, if you remember Krishna, you'll go back to Krishna. It's easy in Vrindavan. That's why we go to Vrindavan. For me, it's easier to remember Krishna in Vrindavan than it is in the West. That's why we go there. So at the end of life, it's up to you, whatever. As long as you remember Krishna, then you'll go.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Okay. Srila Prabhupada Ki.